THORNEWS presents... You're right, sir. Asteroids are close, but by the time you see this video, it'll probably pass by. The moon is a thing that you see in the sky almost every single night. Mr. Zombie. Zombies don't notice the moon. Zombies don't notice the sun. Zombies don't notice the stars. I'm announcing that they found and announced 715 new planets. It is huge. Like they just found and announced 715 new planets. Yeah, you heard that right. 715 new planets. So, stop being so civilized, because it kind of means you don't give a shit about the stuff. That's not possible. Possible! Whatever. But asteroids are close to us. Asteroids are flying by all crazy. And they're just chunks of stuff. Like rocks, and metals, and amino acids, and carbons, and hydrates, and silicates, and magic glowing stuff, and then reverse magic glowing stuff, and then anti-reverse magic glowing stuff, and then unicorn dust powder made from their smiles. Plus light and symphonies waiting to symphonize. Oh, symphonize. Right about now. Okay, so I have my own personal YouTube channel. And friends that are dogs. Together, we like to make noise about celestial happenings. They're blasting me with their Tesla magic harp gun. Now I'm plasmid out into, hey, why don't you play another? Somebody done somebody wrong. So, these trees are beautiful. They're so tall and patient. That's some cool shit. Do that Atari arcade game shit again. Come on, you can do it. And then I can quote the famous, awesome, special scientists with their quotes about this insane moon. The moon is a thing that you see in the sky almost every single night.
Live, this is One for the Record. I'm Diana, and today is March 7th, 2014. Here are your news updates for today. I would like to thank Create Harmony for this information. There's a flight 370 out of Malaysia that is missing. So, heads up. She says it's very strange. It sounds very strange. It's just they just lost communication with the plane. So it just dropped off the radar. So what this reminds me of is that old movie Millennium. Check this out.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain in your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, please move toward the rear.
Excuse me, would you mind telling me what's going on?
Please step onto the ramp, walk quickly to the bottom, and follow instructions. You will be taken to a safety
Let's get you out of here.
Idiots. I can't
Be
take
taken to a safety area. Please step onto the ramp, walk quickly to the bottom, and follow instructions. You will be taken to a safety area.
And so our prayers go out to them and their families. Hopefully they're safe. Okay, also I want to thank Colleen in California. Got a call 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. There was a 3.1 earthquake in Marina del Rey. 3.1 is the Marina del Rey the epicenter. Wow, alright. Not real big for California, but let's hope that's all they get. Also, they're having the LA Marathon this weekend, so heads up. Alrighty then. Also, I'm going to attach some stuff on Fukushima, the never-ending story, Fukushima. Also, it's very cold tonight. Very cold again in Florida for us. And so, and I guess LA is having a heat wave of some kind of thing. They're at 81 right now or something for tomorrow. 81 for tomorrow, sorry. Everyone, please be safe. Be prepared for anything. And I'll catch you on the flip side. I'm attaching a lot of stuff. And see you again tomorrow. Alrighty then, it's 5 days down. We made it. It's the eve of Saturday. And I'll see you again tomorrow on the flip side, as I said. And please, everyone get prepared for anything. Very strange weather. Even for us in Florida. Very strange. A lot of things are strange. Keep your eyes to the sky, all these asteroids. And there was a a very big let's see if I can attach that, a very big fireball in Mexico, and they had some fireballs in California, but then there's a gigantic fireball that lit up the sky in Canada. They were filming auroras, and all of a sudden this giant fireball goes overhead and just explodes. And it was so bright that the observers had to cover their eyes, which was a good thing. Alright. Take care. Max, what are you doing? And I'll see you tomorrow. Stay tuned. Running more stuff. That movie, Millennium, is from 1989, a long time ago. And they also showed the bio robots. That was like it's biological. There's no mechanical parts, I guess. Biological type of cyborg, type of biological robots. Okay.
Japanese officials say they will work with counterparts in France to develop new technologies for reducing radioactive waste. They're hoping to find use for a troubled nuclear reactor in central Japan. The Monju reactor is used to recycle nuclear fuel. It's offline because of coolant leaks and other problems. Regulators have effectively banned the resumption of operations after learning that more than 10,000 safety checks were not carried out. Some lawmakers are calling for the reactor to be scrapped. But in a long-term national energy plan released last week, officials say the plant is an ongoing project. They may see a role for Monju by collaborating with researchers overseas. Engineers in France are developing a prototype reactor known as the Asteroids. It's designed to reduce nuclear waste. Sources say the two sides may reach a basic agreement next month to jointly work on the project.
Many in Japan will pause next Tuesday to mark the third anniversary of the earthquake and tsunami. The disaster and its lingering impact killed more than 18,000 people. More than 2,600 others are still considered missing. Survivors in the northeast have found that a key to the recovery effort has been the kindness of strangers. More than 1 million volunteers from Japan and around the world have helped out in 3 prefectures. Residents of Minamisoma in Fukushima are among those who have benefited. The city's southernmost border is less than 10 kilometers from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant. Parts of Minamisoma remain inside the evacuation zone because of high radiation levels. But thousands of people still live in other areas of the city. Among them, an American volunteer has been there since 2011. NHK World's Miki Ebara has a story.
Kate Oberg doesn't understand all the customs of this place, but she's trying hard to learn them. When she was 18, she spent 3 weeks in Minamisoma as an exchange student. And now she's putting down roots here.
Having you be like my Japanese grandma.
Oberg is from Pendleton, Oregon, a sister city to Minamisoma. 3 years ago, Oberg was shocked to learn about what happened to her friends in Japan. It prompted her to organize a charity dinner. They raised thousands of dollars. Little by little, she learned more about the problems in Minamisoma. The tsunami killed more than 600 people in the city, and the nuclear accident forced many residents to flee. 9 months after the disaster, Oberg decided to pick up and head to Japan.
I needed to do something. I couldn't sit there and not do something.
Oberg joined other volunteers, cleaning debris, digging up gutters, and handing out food to people living in shelters.
7, 8, 9, 10.
She also volunteers teaching English to children. She's got used to the name they call her, Keito.
Keito 先生は好きですか？好きです。
All foreign language teachers in Minamisoma fled the city right after the disaster. Many feared the effects of radiation. So when Oberg turned up, her Japanese colleagues were delighted.
People were saying she moved here despite fears of radiation. Not just me, but everyone appreciated her coming here.
Oberg admits that, at first, she too was nervous about radiation. She carried a device to monitor contamination. But she's confident about the information she sees about the levels in her neighborhood. And she says as long as she stays away from areas designated off limits, she feels safe. Oberg wants people to know that the media portrayal of Fukushima as a wasteland is wrong. So she shares stories and photos about her life online. And she hopes the locals get her message too.
I hope I'm able to give them hope that, not everyone is afraid to come here.
Oberg's efforts have brought her close to one local family. Katsuaki and Kuniko Izumi are farmers, but they can't work their land because it's inside the evacuation zone around Fukushima Daiichi. And they've been forced to live in a shelter. Still, the couple says Oberg has inspired them.
You have a warm heart.
I saw her carrying heavy things to all the housing shelters where old men and women are living alone. Just watching her do that made me really happy.
Oberg says she feels like she has a lot of work left to do.
There's too much here that is not finished, and I always, have a home here, and I always have people to see, and people that love me as well, and people that I love so much.
Oberg has been with the people of Minamisoma through tears, smiles, and laughter. She now calls the community her second home. Miki Ebara, NHK World, Minamisoma, Fukushima.
Some are already looking ahead to the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo. One of the people instrumental in bringing the Games back to Japan is a London-based consultant with a gold medal track record. NHK World's Hiro Morita spoke with him.
Last September, members of the International Olympic Committee voted on which city would host the 2020 Summer Olympic Games. They chose Tokyo over Istanbul and Madrid. Observers say what cinched it for Tokyo was its final presentation. Nick Barley, Tokyo's communications advisor, crafted the presentation. Last week, the London-based consultant visited Tokyo. His consulting firm focuses on sports. Barley played a key role in the previous Olympic campaigns of London and Rio de Janeiro, two cities that won their bids. Tokyo's success makes it 3 in a row for Barley's firm. He took the lead in preparing the city's final presentation by choosing 7 speakers and crafting their speeches.
What was your strategy?
The strategy was very simple. We needed to win every presentation to show that Tokyo was the most effective and passionate team.
Barley's aim was to spruce up Tokyo's reserved image. For example, he highlighted the city's enthusiasm for hosting the games by showing this footage. The people of Tokyo are giving a passionate welcome to Japan's medal-winning athletes from the 2012 London Olympic Games. The video helped erase the city's image as being cool toward the Olympics. Barley also wanted to change the general perception that the Japanese are too formal. Traditionally in Japan, male executives lead off presentations. But for the Olympic presentation, Barley picked Paralympic athlete Mami Sato as the first speaker.
I'm here because I was saved by sport.
Sato is from the Tohoku region. He was hard hit by the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. During her speech, she said many athletes visited devastated areas and helped organize sports events. She said this energized people so they could get back on their feet. Barley counted on Sato's speech to send a strong message to the Olympic Committee that the Games would help rebuild the lives of people in the devastated areas.
We used Mami Sato's personal story about her own personal experience. It became suddenly a very powerful, happy story. You know, she found her family. She's been back to the area and is helping use sport to rebuild lives.
What was the biggest challenge for you to make those Japanese presenters look good and sound good?
The biggest challenge, and they will all laugh when they hear me say this, was to make them smile. So it's really important to move away from perhaps that overly serious Japanese style of presenting and look like you're enjoying yourself.
Tokyo! Barley's strategy paid off. Tokyo won the bid. Japanese everywhere were ecstatic.
What do you think exactly Tokyo needs to do from now to 2020? That's 6.5 years.
I think one of the mistakes that winning bids sometimes make is they forget what made them win in the first place. So the reasons Tokyo won is because of a fantastic leadership team who embraced a global approach and took a very strong campaign and communication strategy to make it all work. And I think it's very important for that mentality to continue.
The people of Tokyo are determined to match Londoners and the people of Rio in giving the world Olympic Games to remember. Hiro Morita, NHK World.
Meanwhile, an NHK survey shows that more than half of evacuees affected by the March 2011 disaster are feeling unsure about the choice of location for their new residence. NHK conducted the survey in January among over 2,800 evacuees from Iwate, Miyagi, and Fukushima prefectures and received more than 1,200 answers. 86% of respondents said they had decided where to move. 71% said they will go back to exactly where they lived before or to other areas in their former communities. 15% answered that they will move to other municipalities. 45% of respondents said they have no doubts about their decision, but more than half said they often or sometimes wonder whether their choice of location was right. Those who are feeling undecided were asked about what they missed most. Over a third said land, houses, and family graves. Others mentioned bonds with neighbors and friends. An expert says the survey shows even after 3 years, the evacuees have limited options for rebuilding their lives, and both central and local governments should further explain their reconstruction plans to reassure. Turmoil in Ukraine is obstructing a Japanese aid group. The NPO supports people affected by the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear accident. Volunteers in central Japan have been sending medical equipment and funds to the region for 24 years. They've also been helping to grow rapeseed plants. The roots of the plant are thought to absorb radioactive substances from the soil. The seeds are used to produce biofuel. However, recipients of the aid have asked the Japanese to stop sending money. Members of the Ukrainian civic group say they are unable to work because their office has been seized. A senior member of the NPO, Masaharu Kawata, is worried the group may not be able to continue its activities.
The confusion is badly affecting Ukrainian people still suffering from the nuclear accident. We fear they may not be able to enjoy the support they are entitled to by law.
It will soon be 3 years since the nuclear accident in Fukushima. Its impact is not limited to Japan. A U.S. firm producing enriched uranium has filed for bankruptcy. The firm, UZEC, based in the state of Maryland, makes the nuclear fuel for power plants. The company filed for protection from creditors under Chapter 11. UZEC executives say financial difficulties resulted from a plunge in the price of enriched uranium. An oversupply of the fuel was the main cause. Many nuclear plants in Japan and Germany were taken offline after the 2011 accident at the Fukushima Daiichi plant. Japan's Toshiba has invested more than $37 million in UZEC. It was part of a project to build a comprehensive system for the nuclear power business. That means from supplying the fuel to the construction of power plants.
Hi, I'm Arnie Gunderson for Fairwinds. We have a slightly different format today because I'm out of the office preparing testimony as an expert witness in a nuclear safety case. In addition to the continuing releases from the Fukushima Daiichi triple meltdowns, our focus today is on a U.S. nuclear waste project in New Mexico that's contaminated workers and is leaking radioactivity into the surrounding environment. Located in Carlsbad, New Mexico, this Department of Energy, that's the DOE, experimental nuclear waste dump, is attempting to store leftover radioactive plutonium and americium from the U.S. weapons program. For those of you who follow nuclear waste storage issues, you'd know that americium has a radioactive half-life of several hundred years, while plutonium is radioactive for 250,000 years. Fairwinds Energy Education has received many questions about this serious nuclear safety failure. We have continuously been updating this issue on the Fairwinds Twitter feed, the Fairwinds Facebook page, and in press interviews. Common Dreams has also posted 4 separate and complete interviews with me on this calamity. And we've placed those links at the end of this video, on the page following the transcript, on our Facebook page, and on our Twitter feed. So what is this waste isolation pilot project called the WIP? Nuclear power and nuclear weapons both leave toxic remnants, in other words, toxic trash, that must be isolated for hundreds of thousands of years. Because this waste is highly toxic radioactive debris, it has to be locked away so it doesn't migrate into the air we breathe, the water we drink, or the food we eat. The nuclear weapons industry and the nuclear power industry claim that this toxic material is not a problem, and it's safe to store in underground salt mines, which they hope are impervious to water and therefore will not allow this toxic nuclear debris to migrate. On the other hand, many state legislatures, city councils, intervenor groups, landlords, and farms near the site, as well as environmental groups, worry that no site in the world can accommodate and store such toxic nuclear debris for 250,000 years. The Carlsbad, New Mexico Waste Isolation Storage Project is located in a salt mine that's a half a mile underground. The United States DOE calls this a pilot project because it's been receiving high-level nuclear waste for more than 10 years as part of this experimental waste system. This mine, just like any other mine, continuously removes the stale air inside and draws fresh air through a large system of huge fans that sit on the surface at the top of the mine, and it pulls the stale air out, allowing for fresh air to come back in. On the evening of Valentine's Day, something dangerous happened underground. DOE calls it an event, but in my book it's a euphemism, it's a slick word for a nuclear safety failure. It was a leak, it was a spill. Fairwinds has been quoted about this WIP calamity in Common Dreams ever since February 17th. What do we know? Well, we certainly don't know enough because the DOE has not been honest with us, and in typical U.S. government fashion, we're only getting small bits of the actual nuclear safety failure at the WIP. This is what DOE has told us so far. 1. On the night of February 14th, radiation detectors in the ventilation system at WIP detected radiation in the exhaust air being released from the salt mine. That exhaust air contained plutonium and americium, 2 types of radiation that are extremely dangerous if they're inhaled, even in minuscule quantities. At first, DOE claimed no one was in the mine when the radiation was released, and that their night shift personnel were in a separate building, and therefore they weren't exposed to any radiation. DOE also claims that radiation filters were turned on within 1 minute of the radiation release, so that those filters immediately began filtering the ventilation air being expelled from the nuclear waste storage salt mine. Now we've learned that land above ground at this dump site has been contaminated at least out in a half a mile circle. And we've also learned that radiation has been detected off-site as far away as in the surrounding communities. Last Thursday, February 27th, almost 2 weeks after these radioactive leaks and the nuclear safety failure, the Department of Energy announced that 13 workers who were on site on Valentine's Day when the roof inside the mine collapsed had tested positive for internal radiation exposure. The internal dose of radiation was detected in these workers' urine. More than 2 weeks after the toxic leak, the Department of Energy finally announced that all the WIP workers that came on site on February 15th would also be tested to see if they had been contaminated. There's more than 650 employees that work on the site in the day shift. Lastly, the Department of Energy claims that no personnel have been allowed to re-enter the mine since this severe radioactive leak was discovered. But what really happened at the WIPP? Whistleblowers and family members of the mine workers claim that the ceiling in one portion of the mine collapsed, and that when the ceiling collapsed, it fell directly on top of canisters that are storing the highly radioactive nuclear debris. And that caused the canisters to rupture and to spew the radioactive contents throughout the mine and in a radioactive plume that moved off-site. Based on the minimal data we've gotten from DOE so far, and it's couched in nuke speak, it's Fairwin's opinion that, one, the Department of Energy hasn't told us nearly enough information, and independent scientists need more to assess the public health threats and the environmental contamination resulting from the radioactive debris erroneously discharged from the mine. Two, based on the fact that workers and land far outside the mine were contaminated, the underground portions of the mine are likely severely contaminated. Three, there are thousands of sealed canisters in that underground mine. At a minimum, one of the seals on one of those canisters failed, allowing the radiation to be released. But the mine roof has collapsed. And as claimed by people who are familiar with the site, it's possible that many canisters have failed in some other manner than just the seal at the top. And they've leaked toxic material that was intended to be secure for 250,000 years out the ventilation system. Such a major leak would leave extensive underground contamination and make that portion of the mine inaccessible due to high levels of radiation. Next, filters are not perfect, and radiation is continuing to be released even though the filters are operational. Department of Energy claims that its filters are 99.9% effective. I don't believe that's true, but let's take them at their word for the sake of a mathematical comparison. 99.9% means that 999 minutes out of every 1,000 minutes, those filters capture every bit of radiation. But for 1 minute out of every 1,000 minutes, those filters capture nothing. Okay, let's do the math. A single day contains more than 1,400 minutes, and WIPP has now been venting radiation for almost 3 weeks. 1 minute out of every 1,000 minutes multiplied by 3 weeks means that the mine has essentially been unfiltered for 30 minutes once the nuclear safety failure began. While the surrounding communities were initially exposed to a 1-minute burst of radiation at the beginning of this malfunction, now there's at least 30 minutes of radioactive air that has escaped from the mine unfiltered. And finally, as the National Academy of Science determined in its VIR 7 report on the biological effects of ionizing radiation, all man-made radiation causes damage, and there's no level that's simply okay. So we at Fairwinds have 4 major concerns. The first, how serious is this tragedy and how widespread is the radiation? A WIPP press release offered to test anyone within 100 miles of the site for exposure to this man-made radiation. Can they mitigate the health effects too? Second, unless the workers were completely decontaminated and their clothes and shoes and personal belongings in their possession were destroyed when they got contaminated, some of the radioactivity went home with them and may have contaminated their families. Their families, their automobiles, their homes, their clothing, all should be tested, and they may need to be radioactively cleaned up. Did these workers stop at a grocery store on the way home or meet a friend for coffee? Were they wearing the same clothes home that they wore to work? These are not made-up concepts. The spread of radioactivity from nuclear workers and hospital workers or patients exposed to radioactivity who then bring that contamination home is a well-documented fact around the world. Third, What would happen if the roof collapse had not happened at night, but rather during the daytime when men were inside the mine? There would have been many physical casualties that would have been severely complicated by the high levels of radiation. The DOE was simply lucky that so far no one has died. Finally, nearby communities and environmental leaders have been concerned for years about water from fracking in the vicinity of the mine entering the salt and migrating into the mine. Is nearby fracking the cause of the roof collapse? We need to know the answers. We all need to keep the pressure on the Department of Energy to release more information. Right now, we all have lots of questions to keep asking federal authorities. I'm Arnie Gunderson, and I'll keep you informed.